Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Gérard Chaliand, who's an expert in guerrilla warfare and terrorism. But he's not your usual armchair general. Chaliand learned about the world and the struggles by leaving home when he was only 18 and traveling across the globe since the 1950s, sometimes fighting alongside guerrillas and hopping from Algeria to Palestine to Vietnam to Colombia, etc., etc. A fascinating journey which he recounts in his memoirs, the first part of which is being published here in France by Robert Laffont. Gérard Chaliand, welcome to the France 24 interview. I'm going to begin, you've probably guessed it, Osama bin Laden is dead. Apparently, we're told. Is it a major sea change, or is it something that's not going to change much?
Well, it's a very important change in the sense that it gives President Obama remarkable prestige. After all, he has achieved what Mr. Bush could not. So that's one. Second thing is that, sure, he was an icon, but nevertheless, when you get the icon, you get someone. And he certainly was a failing star. I might say that because those famous insurrections or revolution, whatever you call them, in Tunisia, in Egypt, and elsewhere, are not made around the idea of Islamism or jihad, etc. They are essentially against despotism. They are in the name of some liberty. They are in the name of humiliation. They are in the name of a need of prosperity. So it's something very different. In other words, he has declined. In a way, he was finished.
Ideologically, he was finished.
I think it's the beginning of the end of his ideology. Of course, you know, like in anarchism, you always have a few anarchists who still go on. But I mean, the real push is finished. What have we seen in the last 10 years? What have they achieved? They have achieved a remarkable communication. They have made a lot of noise. But materially speaking, they had promised Armageddon to the West. You remember, in October 2001, well, in Europe, Madrid, London, that's it. In the US, it's even poorer. They have hit a certain number of Muslim countries, which has not made them very popular there. Sure, I mean, the fact that he has resisted the US, that he has been a hero of some sort, has counted. But I mean, bin Laden is not what he used to be. I think that his disappearance will be felt badly by the group, what we call Al-Qaeda, the core. Incidentally, all those who were members of Al-Qaeda at the top level in 10/11, they are dead or in prison. They are in jail. The only one which is still out is Mr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, who
the number two.
The number two, who in the last half a dozen years has been essentially the one who has said, who has given the orders, who has said, for instance, yes, you can have the label of Al-Qaeda in the country of the two rivers, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, etc. He was the one who was giving that sort of satisfaction. So in other words, yeah, it's important. His disappearance is important. Will they be able to find someone? Or is it going to be very difficult to replace him? I believe it will be.
Could you say that 9/11 was maybe the high mark for Al-Qaeda and not the beginning of something else, because there were plots maybe to use nuclear devices, dirty bombs as they're called, or even more? But do you think this was a fantasy and that actually 9/11, since then, Al-Qaeda has been declining?
I absolutely agree with what you say, or with your question. I think that some experts have been selling a lot of anxiety. Next time it will be worse. Wait for the mass destruction, blah, blah, and so on, because once it happened, in Japan in '95, which incidentally made only 12 people dead, and they were Japanese. In other words, people who know about technology. No, I think that not only it was a highlight, I think that they did suicide themselves that very day. They suicide themselves that very day because the US could not do anything but go in Afghanistan and get them. And they lost their sanctuary. They lost a sanctuary where you could freely train thousands of people and send them back like they did in Algeria and elsewhere. And from then on, they have been hiding. They have, in fact, dissolved. And it's essentially the name, it's the icon, it's the ideology which has been going on. There is today a cell in Yemen. There is another one in the Maghreb. They're weak. It's a few hundred men.
But one place, you said they lost their sanctuary in Afghanistan, but they may have won one in neighboring Pakistan. You know the region well. You've been there a number of times. The fact that he was found, as well as other senior al-Qaeda leaders, not in the border region with Afghanistan, but in the heart of Pakistan, what does it tell you? I mean,
it tells me that they have no training ground. They have no training ground. In other words, they can hide. I'm sure that the intelligence of Pakistan knew about their activities, but those activities has been extremely modest.
So do you believe, as many people do, that the al-Qaeda had some backing from the ISI, the military intelligence services?
Yeah, you can't survive without the backing of those guys. They are good. They have helped the Taliban. They are in the business for the last almost 30 years. They were very instrumental in the 70s and in the 80s. So sure, of course, they knew bin Laden. They knew he was there. Maybe he was this time even given.
That was my next question, because do you think there might have been a deal between Pakistan and the United States? There are lots of tensions, especially about the role of the ISI, but other issues, that Pakistan told Obama, we give you bin Laden, but you may get out of Afghanistan, or another concession. Do you think there could be such a deal?
It's very probable. It makes sense. I think that the deal was on Afghanistan. What is important for the Pakistani services? It's important to have the Taliban at the top, or the Taliban very instrumentalized, very important in Afghanistan. They want them back. To them, rightly or wrongly, they believe that they will have a sort of strategic depth, as they say. Strategic depth which is much too late. Their real enemy, which is India, as you know, has made it. India is much too strong today. It's really a country which has made growth. It's an important country. They're number 2 after China. And the Pakistani, what is it today? Sort of failed state.
But I mean, to go back to this deal in Afghanistan, what would be the deal? That Pakistan would regain influence because the Taliban would reconcile with President Karzai? Is this what's on the table, you think?
Possible. They hate the fact that the Indians are so influential. They might have made a deal about the fact that Indians should not be that present in Afghanistan. They might make a deal that we will guarantee you that if the Taliban do come back, Al-Qaeda will not, etc. That's possible. I mean, they want to finish this war if possible, and the US also. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not predicting anything, but I mean, if there is a deal, that deal concerns Afghanistan.
Just to go back to Pakistan, you've traveled across the globe. I've just cited a few countries where you went. Would you say this is today the most dangerous country in the world?
I think it's the epicenter of the crisis. It is the epicenter of the crisis. The situation in Afghanistan is much more simple. This is a country of almost 200 million people. I'm not speaking about the fact that they are nuclear. You don't use the nuclear. But apart from that, I mean, with about 200 million people, you can make a lot of nuisance. And who controls the country now? Mr. Zardari? Certainly not.
The president, you mean?
The president, no. The Punjabi, up to a certain point. Who's satisfied? Few people. In other words, you are in a crisis. To be Pakistani today is a very difficult business.
Do you fear that the country will be further destabilized, that there might be military coups again? I mean, this is really the fear?
This is absolutely possible. Yeah. Yeah. As soon as the US will be less present in the area, the army, which already is extremely present, might become even more present.
And do you think that after arresting Osama bin Laden, the US will progressively exit the area?
Well, some people believe so, and it's not impossible. I mean, the problem for the US is to go away from Afghanistan without losing face. You need what I would call a decent non-victory.
Okay, a decent non-victory. Thank you very much, Gérard Chaliand. If you can read in French and you want to learn a lot about the world in the past 50 years, the memoirs of Gérard Chaliand are really a good read. Thank you very much for watching the France 24 interview.